Good evening and welcome to episode 4 of Gutsy Media Podcast. My guest tonight is a special one. It's one of my oldest childhood friends, Will Kelly. He picked 2014's dark comedy Birdman, officially titled Birdman and the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. If you guys like this show, then go support other local podcasts and spread the love. I personally recommend my friends over at Critical Mass. Dan and Rockness Monster himself, Rocco, are two of the funniest guys to listen to, and I have recently had the pleasure of fighting monsters in a Star Wars dungeon with Rocco over at Don't Forget a Towel's latest podcast, Star Warriors Tabletop RPG. But enough about that now. On with the show.
Intimate in this piece, you know what I'm saying?
I'm excited. So I'm really excited to do this episode because this is going to be the first movie that I've watched for the podcast that I enjoyed.
This movie it's pretty dope.
This movie is pretty dope. So you selected Birdman, or the official title is Birdman or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. I don't really know what that means.
So I thought it was so the first time I watched it, didn't see that. That was when it first came out. This past time I'm looking at it, I'm going, what is that new? Is that like a Chinese thing? I don't know. I just don't know. So yeah, and I don't totally understand it. I guess I just totally don't understand it, so maybe there's not much to talk about, but strange how that's in there and it wasn't Birdman, the unexpected ignorance of virtue. It's
as if you could swap them out. They're interchangeable titles.
That's right. Interchangeable.
Birdman, the unexpected virtue of ignorance. Interesting. I mean, I don't know what it means. Because to be honest with you, I love this movie. This movie is such a well choreographed dance routine that I think it's oftentimes taken for granted. The other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick was how difficult it was to find the movie. So Amazon only sells. Normally, you look up a movie on Amazon and you can get 17 different people selling the Blu-ray, 17 different companies selling the DVD or the 4K or the HD or whatever. It's just pages upon pages of different types of copies of this movie. But Amazon only has one Blu-ray for sale, or one company selling the Blu-ray at least.
Yeah.
So I ended up renting it on Amazon Prime, $4. Best $4 I ever spent in my life.
I hadn't used my jailbroken Fire Stick in probably like 7 months. I used it and worked just fine. Watched the whole movie, no problem.
Nice. Crystal clear copy, huh? Crystal
clear. But like you said, strange for a movie that won like Motion Picture of the Year.
It did. It won. So it's funny you bring that up. I have in my notes here, it's the first movie in 34 years to receive a Best Picture nomination without getting Best Editing nomination. Do you know why it didn't get Best Editing nomination?
Because there was so little editing.
There was so little editing. Yeah. There is a total, and this is unprecedented. There is a total of 16 cuts in the movie. 16. Yeah. The trailer for the movie had 30 cuts.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about this movie is how it was shot. And the reason why I love it so much, and we'll get into more detail later, obviously, is, have you ever been to a play?
I have.
It is shot like a play.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, the movie's about a play. So I actually wrote in my notes, shot like a play with one long scene. It's a movie about a movie actor doing a play shot like a play.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like stages of acting going on. It's like an onion. There's
It's
just
like
like
an onion. There's layers.
there's layers to that movie, man. Layers. And I loved every bit of it, except for, and we can get deeper into this, but there were some parts where it just like went awry, and I was like, my man, what'd you do here?
See, I don't see that. The first time I watched this movie, I felt it was kind of confusing. I don't think I fully understood it because there are some scenes that it jumps forward in time, and it doesn't really tell you it's doing that. You got to kind of pick up on the subtleties.
Right.
For example, in the beginning, so the movie starts off and we're introduced to Michael Keaton's character, who is a former actor. He played a comic book character, or at least a superhero character named Birdman,
Yep.
and he is trying to put together this play. And in within the first 5 minutes, the secondary character in the play, the other main star, ends up getting hit in the head with a falling stage light.
Yeah.
Takes a pretty good gash and is unable to perform. So they replace him with Edward Norton's character. And the reason why I bring that up is because the scene where he goes to meet Ed Norton's character, Mike, he's talking to his daughter, who's played by Emma Stone, and telling her, set it up. Or no, I'm sorry, no, it wasn't Emma Stone he was talking to. It was Naomi Watts' character, Leslie.
Right.
He's saying, set up the meeting. I want to talk to him, and then the camera basically follows him down to the meeting. So it's presumed upon second watch that that's jumping forward in time a little bit, but they don't do that. They do it in one long cut, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's there with his trench coat and top hat, as if the meeting was happening then, but it kind of skipped an hour or 3 hours or 2 days.
And he immediately he knows the lines of the play. He doesn't even really want to talk about whether or not he wants the job or not. He immediately wants to go into let's rehearse a couple lines, or let's go over the play a little bit, and he starts critiquing him on how it was written and what should be changed. And he's got this moment where he's telling him, one of the lines is kind of like a fuck you. You got to deliver it like a fuck you. And it instantly changes the dynamic of the scene and makes it a little bit better, in my opinion.
Well,
And
he riles Michael Keaton up a little bit.
yeah,
By telling him, I don't need to know the lines. I know the lines. He apparently he had been rehearsing with his girlfriend, who was the other co-star of the
Leslie,
yeah. So he did know the lines, but he stepped in as, you don't know how to act. I know how to act. I'm going to teach you. And I think that riled Michael Keaton up a little bit, and then the scene got really good.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the movie itself, the plot is not. It's every character in this movie, and I even feel bad referring to it as a movie because it's so shot like a play and done like a play that to me it seems more like a play, like a stage performance. But every character in this movie has a dynamic progression, has a sympathetic backstory, has an arc. I mean, the character development in this is just so thick and rich on almost every character. It's unbelievable. I mean, we got Michael Keaton's character, obviously, former actor, somewhat washed up. He says that the last time he played Birdman was in 1992, which coincidentally enough is also the last time that Michael Keaton played Batman in Batman Returns.
Yep.
So he's trying to put on this play, and there's like an looming story about him wanting to be remembered and wanting to have a legacy, which is kind of ironic in my opinion because he does have a legacy. I mean, throughout the movie, he's stopped several times by fans who want to get an autograph or a picture because he was Birdman.
Right. Yep. No,
And,
I agree. I think he, in the movie, he said, this is my redemption. This is how I'm going to come back to life. This is what I want to be remembered for, not for Birdman. However, his devil on the shoulder, his conscience, ergo Birdman, is always telling him, "This is crap. Come back to Hollywood. Come back to me. Come back to Hollywood. Come back to the silver screen. This is where you belong." He's kind of he's always kind of fighting. I think of him as like a demon. He's fighting his demon, his past demon, um, throughout the movie.
See, it's funny that you saw it like that. See, I didn't see it as a consciousness or a conscience. I saw it more as he was going crazy. I mean, he was hearing voices. He
Yeah,
he thinks he can fly, which is another thing. Like I remember watching it for the first time and thinking, like, I wonder, like, am I supposed to believe that some of those scenes could possibly be true, that he really was flying? But upon second watch, there are very subtle things that point to him going crazy. Like for example, he's got that scene where he essentially, he's on the rooftop and he's looks like he's gonna get ready to jump.
yeah,
And he does. He flies through the sky back to the theater, but when he lands and goes to walk in the theater, you hear a cab driver yell, he didn't pay me, or he's got to pay me my money for the cab ride.
yeah. You see him shutting the cab door and the cab driver chasing him in, and the same with when he's destroying his dressing room.
Right.
He's doing it with the snap of a finger or a twist of a finger. But then when someone walks in, it shows him actually picking up those items and tossing them around. So
Right.
very much in his mind. And back to the beginning scene where the original co-star gets hit in the head with a stage light. He says, "I made this happen. I did that. I
Yeah,
thought it happened."
he tells
Um,
Zach Galifianakis' character, his name is Jake. He plays like his manager or producer or agent. I
he
think he's a lawyer. He says
he's the
he's his
lawyer.
lawyer at one point.
Yeah, he's his lawyer. He's the producer of the player. The play. Um, and you kind of see both sides of that. That he's dealing with the lawyer end, the legality when the guy gets hit and he wants to sue the play. He's acting as a lawyer, but then also as the producer. Um, some of the behind the scene things with the playwright.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic there. So he hires Mike, played by Edward Norton, who's a well-known actor. Zach Galifianakis' character tells him, he's going to put asses in the seats. He'll sell tickets. We got to hire him, and he does. And they have these rehearsals. They're open rehearsals that they can essentially sell discounted tickets to, and people can come watch them rehearse and watch them go over the play a couple times before opening night. And the first one he has with Edward Norton's character is drunk, or Edward Norton's character is supposed to be drinking in the play, and come to
Yeah,
find out he has been drinking. He's more of a method actor, and he winds up getting wasted and like berating, Michael Keaton and the audience. And he has this moment where he storms off set, and Michael Keaton says to Zach Galifianakis, "Get rid of him. He's done. I don't want him in my theater. Get him out of here," thinking
yeah,
he's ruined the entire thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Zach tells him, "We can't."
Right. All the I forget what he used, but the ticket sales doubled. People were putting money toward the play, and uh, yeah, he needed Mike Schreiner for sure.
So then they do another kind of rehearsal, and in this one, there's a scene where Edward Norton's character and Naomi Watts' character are supposed to have this kind of sex scene where Michael Keaton then barges in as the wife, or as the husband rather, and finds them in bed, and has the finale to the play. And while they're under the covers, Edward Norton's like, let's really do it. Let's really make this happen. And again, another example of how he's essentially screwing things up. There's also another scene where he has an interview with like in the newspaper, and he basically calls Michael Keaton a washed up has been. And this is all both hindering the relationship between Michael Keaton and Edward Norton, but also increasing ticket sales. I mean, this is starting to go viral. More people want to come see the play. It's getting a lot
Yeah.
of notoriety. So then we have the scene where he gets locked out of the theater.
Best scene ever.
Why do you say that?
Best scene ever. When I first saw the first time I saw that movie, that scene, I was like, wow. Just in general, how it's shot and it kind of follows him around, which is actually like a New York City block. I think the St. James Theater takes up a whole block, or at least a good quarter of the block, but he ends up having to walk around the whole thing in whitey tighties with a packed New York strip, Broadway strip, um, with people in cell phones, and he doesn't give a care, right? So he's just walking through. I just need to get back into the place, and he plays it off very well. He goes in. What do I do? What do I do? Well, I'll just walk up, and I believe I don't think that was the premiere either. That was another rehearsal.
Right. Yep.
Um,
But he walks up in that same scene, and kind of comes in from the audience. Again, new vibe, and it goes viral, especially with him walking through his tidy whities.
yeah,
It's
and
just
I,
such a
and I think that's right. I think that scene took place right after he witnesses Edward Norton and Emma Stone, who's his daughter in the movie, um, kind of like a kiss goodbye real quick. So he sees that, gets all pissed off, goes out for a smoke. I believe it's that same scene, trying to cool down, and then boom, this happens. His coat jacket gets stuck in the door, can't get it back open.
so the play that they are doing is called What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. Now that is an actual book that this movie is based on. So this movie is based on the book that is the play they're performing in the movie, which is
Yep.
some Inception type shit. But
Yeah.
the guy who wrote that, his name was Raymond Carver. The opening line in the movie, the lettering comes up before anything actually happens. I'm trying to see if I can find the exact phrase that's in the opening line. It says that's the line that's on his actual tombstone. The writer of the book.
Yeah, I know which line you're saying. It has to do with basically leaving a legacy, people remembering you, being bigger than everyone else, something along those lines, if I'm correct.
Yeah, exactly. It says, and did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so, I did. What did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on the earth. It's it's a very interesting line, but it plays into the whole point of the movie, which is the fact that Michael Keaton's character just wants a legacy. He wants to be remembered, and he sees this play as a way of doing it. So this is all building to opening night, and there's going to be a big play grader. What would you call her? The one that
She's a
critic,
critic.
critic,
Yeah,
yeah,
she's a
a
critic.
play critic that is going to come opening night, and Edward Norton tells Michael Keaton, if she's going to make or break this, if she writes something positive, that's all you need.
Right. She is the critic on Broadway, for Broadway, has been for years and years apparently. Um, it's kind of like Ratatouille, right? Disney Ratatouille, um, the food critic, or
Yeah,
any place, there, you go to France and Paris, and just a well-known critic that will make or break your play, good or bad. And this woman is set out to break to kill, and she says, "I'm going to kill your play," simply because he's a Hollywood actor. She does not believe in Hollywood. She's all about the theater and um, true acting in her eyes, true
right.
acting.
Yeah, she has this monologue. They have this confrontation scene in a bar where he goes over and he's trying to charm her. He
Yeah,
buys her a drink and is just kind of like, "Hey, I hope you enjoy the show or whatever." And she responds with, I'm gonna destroy you. I'm gonna write the most damning review I could possibly write." And he's like at odd, like, how you haven't even seen it yet, how can you come to that conclusion that that's what you're gonna do? And she goes into this monologue of basically, I'm tired of you Hollywood elites thinking you
yeah,
can come down here and you just automatically know what it is to be a playwright, and to write, produce, and star in your own show, to
yeah,
feed your ego. And she just goes up one side of him and down the other.
yeah.
And
I wish
he
I wish at this point we can cut to the clip and show the clip, because it's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
You don't get to come in here and pretend you can write, direct, and act in your own propaganda piece without coming through me first. So break a leg.
Wow. You know, what has to happen in a person's life for them to become a critic, anyway? What are you writing, another review? Is it any good? Is it? Is it bad? Did you even see this? Let me read it.
I will call the police.
Call the police. Let's read your fucking review. Callow. Callow's a label. Just, lackluster. That's just labels. Marginal, are you kidding me? It sounds like you need penicillin to clear that up. That's a label, too. These are just all labels. You just label everything. That's so fucking lazy. You're a lazy fucker. You're a lazy... Do you know what this is? Do you even know what that is? You don't. You know why? Because you can't see this thing if you don't know how to label it. You mistake all those little noises in your head for true knowledge.
Are you finished?
No, I'm not finished. There's nothing in here about technique. There's nothing in here about structure. Nothing in here about intention. It's just a bunch of crappy opinions backed up by even crappier comparisons. You write a couple of paragraphs, and you know what? None of this costs you fucking anything. You risk nothing. Nothing. Well, I'm a fucking actor. This play cost me everything. So I'll tell you what, you take this fucking malicious, cowardly, shittily written review and you shove that right the fuck up your wrinkly, tight ass.
You're no actor, you're a celebrity. Let's be clear on that. I'm gonna kill your play.
Just like you said, starts out very subtle, then takes a turn for the worse, and then some great acting in Michael Keaton's part. I think he goes a little Jack Nicholson for a little bit. He's been drinking.
He's been drinking.
Scene, and then he just destroys her, or what you think is, oh, he just destroyed her. What can she say back? And then she comes back. So it's a good volley of emotions. And at the time, you think, well, these are mortal enemies at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he like you said, he goes right back at her and basically tells her, like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is everything that I have left. This is everything to me.
Right. He critiques her review on whatever review she was writing at the end of the bar. He rips it off and critiques her review and says, how do you like it, basically?
Yeah.
How's it feel? Awesome scene. And then he keeps drinking and he walks out, and I wanted to mention this because I thought this was it really struck a chord for me. So he walks out, he's super drunk, and he's kind of stumbling through the streets. At this point, I imagine it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever. And you hear someone preaching with like the revelation was coming in the background. And as he stumbles up to this person, it looks like a homeless guy, all drugged out, whatever, preaching to the sky. And he looks at it and he goes, "Was that good? Was that good?" And it's really just an actor trying to get on Broadway.
So what you're saying was preaching is actually lines from Macbeth.
Is that right?
It's William Shakespeare's Macbeth, and it's after Lady Macbeth dies. The lines are tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllabus of record time, and all our yesterdays have lightened fools the way to dusty death. Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets its hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Which is not the whole quote, but I want to stop right there, because I think there is so many moments in this film where there is sprinklings of what is to come. So this is one of them. The quote, struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. A classic line from Macbeth. So there's that. There's the scene where they do this final scene from the play during one of the rehearsals where Michael Keaton comes in and finds them in bed and proceeds to, So why couldn't you love me? Why did it have to be him? I just wanted to be somebody, and blah blah blah. And winds up his character shoots himself, and then afterwards, Edward Norton comes to him with the pistol that he had, and tells him, you can see the rubber piece in the end. It doesn't give me any fear. This is a piece of shit. Replace it. Have some dignity.
Yeah. Your prop doesn't work for me. If you're pointing at me, I want to actually be scared. I want to feel a little bit of fear, like I may be shot at, and that'll help me. You want to do this right, do it right.
So this is all building to the ultimate climax of the film, which is opening night, and the crowd is packed, and they have this play, and it's leading up to the final scene, and Michael Keaton has this kind of moment with his ex-wife, who's in the film briefly, and he tells her, do you remember this night that we had a while back? And she says, why would you bring that up? Of course I remember it. I caught you sleeping with one of my friends at a party or something like that. And he says, yeah, afterwards, after the fight, I went to the beach and I attempted to walk into the water and kill myself, but I ended up getting stung by a bunch of jellyfish, and it ultimately turned out horribly, and blah blah blah. But it's his kind of way of, he's like saying goodbye to her. He's saying goodbye to her. He's saying goodbye to his daughter, and he goes out on stage. You see him load a real pistol, and he goes out on stage and he goes through the final scene. But instead of pulling out the fake gun and his character shooting himself with a blood pack, he actually shoots himself.
Right.
Which to me should have been the end of the film. Fade to black. It's over.
Right.
The film does carry on a little while longer. He wakes up in the hospital. He shot his nose off. Zach Galifianakis' character comes running in and proceeds to tell him, oh my God, opening night was a huge success. The critic that he had to fight with in the bar wrote an amazing review about it. True art, blah, 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 blah. Everybody leaves the room for a couple seconds.
Bloodshed, something the theater had been missing for, 100 years or something.
Right. Everybody leaves the room for a second. His daughter goes down to get some coffee or something, and he walks over to the window and proceeds to jump out the window. And it's kind of left ambiguous at the end. His daughter comes in the room to look for him. She goes over to the window, and instead of looking down at the ground, she looks up in the sky and has this big smile on her face. And you're kind of left wondering, did he fly away, or is he dead, or whatever. But to be honest with you, I could have done without that. I don't dislike the ending. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it takes anything away from the movie, but I think it should have ended right there on the stage when he pulled out the gun.
Yeah, it doesn't take anything away from the movie at all. But it's one of those scenes where I said, things kind of went awry. It's just something that didn't sit well with me. I can't understand why that scene was in the movie. I can't understand why it ended that way. I can't understand why he took off his face bandages from his nose being shot off. They put a new nose on him,
right?
Which he certainly looked a little different than he did through the movie. But what I did see was so pretty much his whole face is black and blue, just badly bruised. Almost looks like his Birdman character.
I didn't
Birdman makeup.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
And now that you mention it, the new nose, kind of the beak, if you will, of the Birdman.
Yep. But so that's the only thing I could correlate to what could possibly for what reason was this at the end of the movie. And he sees a flock of birds as he's hanging out the window. He smiles, and then apparently flies away. His daughter looks up. She smiles. Oh, he's flying. Whatever.
But you don't actually see him fly.
You don't. I'm presuming that he is. I'm assuming that he's flying. He flew away, similar to what he did earlier in the movie. Strange. I could do without it. I did like the fact that Zach Galifianakis came in, said, "Look, we just got the best review in the world. We have theaters around the world saying this needs to be an international show. We need to go on tour with this show. We're going to be as rich can be. I did like that. You kind of got a conclusion there of how did it turn out. There's resolution on the play and its success there, but past that, bogus to me.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about the movie and the shooting of the movie. So like we had touched on earlier, it seems like every character in this movie kind of has a story arc. So we got Michael Keaton, former actor, putting on the play, wants to be a legacy, wants to cement his legacy. Emma Stone plays Sam, his daughter. We find out throughout the movie that she's been to rehab. She's out of rehab. She's being his assistant. She's got some turmoil with her father for not being there because of his acting career.
Right.
Naomi Watts, Leslie, she's the second lead in the play, the female lead. She is presumably having a relationship with Mike, who's played by Edward Norton, but gets frustrated with him, talks about how they've been fighting, and eventually kicks him out at the end when they have this breakdown with his attempt to have sex on stage. Edward Norton's character, Mike, actor, presumably on the downward end of his career, or at least in a lull, because he is still well known enough to put asses in seats, as Zach says, but also he's in a nothing play. The play isn't very well known. There's no other well-known actors in the play. So he's taking this as kind of a mercy, I guess.
So the way I took it, so I believe he started in theater, was successful in theater, went on to Hollywood, still doing, still kind of sprinkling theater in his career. And that's how he knew that, him and the critic had some rapport.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking he in the rapport seemed to be a good rapport. I'm taking it that he had success in the theater prior to going to a movie, because they did mention, I thought he was doing, the so-and-so movie. Oh, he quit that.
Right, so, right. Or he got fired or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
back and forth.
And you have this kind of subtext where he has ED. He can't get it up.
Yeah.
So he's got a scene where he gets hard on stage, and then Emma Stone's character says later, like, I thought you said you couldn't get it up. What's going on? And he says that, on stage I can do anything, which is just, it's kind of comical, but in the same sense, I got this sense of like pity for him. Like he only truly feels, like himself, or like the master of his domain, if you will, on stage when he's acting.
Yeah, I believe he feels self-value only on the stage. So
right.
when you see him on the stage, he's full of it. He does very well. Great acting throughout the movie, and then acting for the play within the movie. But then when you get him off of the stage, and that's something I wanted to mention. Maybe not just off the stage, but when he's around Emma Stone. So he's this guy who's full of himself. He's good at everything he does. He's kind of an asshole. Then he gets around Emma Stone and completely changes his demeanor. He's like, oh, kind of woe is me, cool Joe. Just totally switches it up. And I don't know if it's because he's trying to get with her, because I think at first he wasn't, right? So he wasn't trying to make a move on her until she kind of pushed it on him. But you definitely saw that they're out on the rooftop. He's kind of just chill, not too arrogant, which you see throughout the rest of the movie from him.
See, that's an interesting point, because I got the sense from his character that you never know when he's not acting. Like, is that really him just kind of laying back and being chill, or is he acting again?
He's acting, right.
From the far reaches of the galaxy to an internet location near you, we're Don'tForgetATowel.com, your daily source for geeky pop culture news, reviews, interviews, and so much more. So as you're hitchhiking your way through the universe, don't forget to travel safe, and don't forget a towel.
And that's why I say in the beginning, I feel like there was it's like stages of acting going on. So you're acting for the movie, you're acting for the play. Was he acting for Emma, or whatever the character's name is? Was he acting for her?
Right.
It's an onion, man. He's an onion.
It's an onion. You got his Amy Ryan plays his ex-wife, who also kind of has I don't want to say a story arc or some character development here, but she's an intricate part in his growth, Michael Keaton's growth as a character. Zach Galifianakis obviously is trying to put on the show, and he's trying to be a friend, a producer, a lawyer. Zach Galifianakis to me had a phenomenal performance in this. Normally he's such a goofball, or I think he kind of plays different versions of himself in this kind of anxiety-ridden, short fused type person. And he plays that a little bit in this, but I got more sense that he was a genuine person in this role than I have in other roles he's played.
Yeah. I read a blurb that because there were these huge long takes, and because there's so much value to each take, that if there was anyone messing up, if there was a blooper or a screw up, having to redo the take, they started keeping tally.
Mm-hmm.
Who made the most mistakes here? And apparently it was Emma Stone who made the most mistakes tonight. And then Zach Galifianakis made a ton as well, but he's so damn good at acting, he was able to play him off so well, they kept it in the movie. So and I caught that a couple times while I was watching him. Go, that looked like a little mess up there, but he quickly rebounded enough to keep it in the movie and not have to redo the take.
But what's amazing to me is all this character development, in addition to a very well told story, doesn't seem rushed. I mean, the runtime of the movie is 1 hour and 59 minutes, so 2 hours, almost to the button, but it doesn't feel rushed. There was no parts in the movie where I felt like it was being dragged on or I was waiting for it to end. I mean, I guess the last 5-10 minutes in the hospital, again, I could have done without that, but it didn't take anything away from the movie. I think those continuous shots kind of kept you in because you weren't sure what was coming up. You weren't sure what the next scene was going to be because it was always a scene.
Yeah, or who was around the next corner, because again, a couple shots, they turn kind of like winding hallways. They turn a corner and someone would be standing there, a new conversation would be had.
Exactly.
Yeah, really good. Something I wanted to mention was so he's walking down the street, and this is the first time they show Birdman, his conscience or his demon. They actually show him. He's walking behind him. He's in the full get-up. He ends up kind of floating or flying above them, and then they switch, right? So this whole time you've been watching this movie that is very theater-esque, and then they say, no, this is what he's the Birdman. This is what the people want, and the whole thing switches to this big Hollywood production. Mm-hmm. There's bombs and there's fire and there's guns and there's these huge mechanical alien figures, and right. So it's a Marvel movie is kind of what they alluded to, is this is what Hollywood is now. This is what people want, or a superhero movie, not necessarily a Marvel movie, but a superhero movie. This is what the people, and they kind of drew you into that. This is what Hollywood is. This is what theater is. Although in the grand scheme of things, this is Hollywood. This is a movie. I thought it was really good. They also mentioned it in the beginning. They asked about so-and-so. He's a Tin Man. They put him in a suit too. And they were alluding to Robert Downey becoming Iron Man. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, so there's a lot online about the amount of rehearsals they went through for the movie. They did a ton of rehearsals because of these long shots and not wanting to screw them up. They did a ton of rehearsals. So the entire movie actually only took 2 months to shoot. And they also shot it in sequential order. So the movie actually only took 2 weeks to edit because obviously there's such little cut scenes and everything. Right. Which is I mean, 2 months to shoot and 2 weeks to edit is completely ridiculous. The budget for the movie, depending on what websites you go to, is anywhere between 16.5 and 18 million. Most of the websites are leaning more towards the 18 million. And to be honest with you, I don't know where that went. I mean, I guess budgets when it comes to paychecks and stuff like that. But if we look at Michael Keaton, this to me is the role that brought Michael Keaton back to being a Hollywood mainstay. So Birdman comes out in 2014. Prior to that, he's in the RoboCop remake, which I think is another attempt to kind of rekindle his career. Ends up being a flop. Prior to that, the next big movie he's in, The Other Guys, from 2010, which he was phenomenal in, but minor role. Prior to that, you have to go all the way back to Jack Frost in 1998, and even then was kind of more of a direct to DVD or a movie, TV movie type thing.
Yeah, he definitely went on a hiatus from Batman.
Yeah, but if you look at his filmography, he never once stops acting. I mean, he goes 98, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2005, 2007, 2008, 2009. So, I mean, he's still out there acting. He's just not landing big gigs. Now, you look at Birdman in 2014. After that, he goes on. He's in Minions, which, again, not huge. But then he goes to Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017. Then he does...
which he was phenomenal in.
Which he was phenomenal in. Now he's in talks to do redo his big role of Birdman or of Bruce Wayne and play Batman again, which is, I can't tell you how much that excites me. I mean, yeah, Michael,
I see a lot of synergy between this movie and what Michael Keaton is trying to accomplish in this movie and his real life. So there had to have been a conversation with the director and the writer or writers at some point saying, this is what I'm going through. I would love to put it into something, whatever it is, a book, whatever. And then
you would think so, but he had zero input on the writing or the directing of this movie. He's not credited as a producer. And he said in a lot of interviews after the movie that this character is the least like him of any character he's played.
Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to mask something there. I just can't imagine how it doesn't. There's too much coincidence there. There's just too much coincidence in my opinion.
I agree, but I mean, on the same token, I like Michael Keaton. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I've liked him since obviously Batman, Multiplicity, Mr. Mom. He's a great actor. So I don't think he ever saw himself as washed up. I mean, obviously that role of Batman has been haunting him for a little while, or I'd like to think at least was a positive in his career. And now with comic books coming back, comic book movies becoming more of a mainstay, and with Batman, not being accepted very much with, the Batfleck and, the reboot that DC's trying to do now with Robert Pattinson. People have been screaming for Michael Keaton to come back in kind of an old man Bruce Wayne type role, like Batman Beyond. And the fact that we're finally getting that is just, I really hope DC and Warner Brothers does not screw this up, but I don't have high hopes based on their track record.
Yeah. So prior to you mentioning it here, I just heard it earlier today. Someone had mentioned that, oh yeah, I heard he's coming back for a Batman 4-ish. I said, oh, no kidding. I hadn't heard that. I couldn't imagine him playing a bountiful Batman, very much like an old man Logan thing is what I'm picturing.
Yeah, so the cartoon from the late 90s, early 2000s, Batman Beyond, sees a young kid essentially uncovers the Batcave and stumbles across an old man, Bruce Wayne, and the old man, Bruce Wayne, basically takes him under the wing and makes him Batman. And he plays more the the Alfred type role where he's in the earpiece and telling him and training him and so on and so forth. And it was a really popular cartoon. It was actually it was done by the same people who did the Batman the Animated Series, which was obviously a huge Batman cartoon. So when they were talking about rebooting Batman after Ben Affleck kind of did his pissing match on it, a lot of the fans were calling bring Keaton back. He's obviously one of the best Batman you've ever had, and turn him into that old man Bruce Wayne. He doesn't have to put the suit on again, but he can be Bruce Wayne and he can mentor a younger Batman.
Right.
And so they reached out to him. They're still in talks. He hasn't signed anything or agreed to anything yet. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure from the fans that have him do that. And I just read an article this morning saying that Warner Brothers kind of already has a backup plan where they're going to try to get Christian Bale to do it if Michael Keaton says no. Which, okay, I don't mind that. I mean, obviously Keaton would be my number one. But if we could see some sort of Terry Guinness, old man Bruce Wayne type movie, that'd be cool. But obviously Michael Keaton would be like the wet dream from every Batman fan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I remember watching the original, or not the original, but the Batman movies with Michael Keaton as a kid, loving them, loving Jack Nicholson as the Joker, or DeVito as Penguin.
Yeah.
Or I don't know who Walken played, but he played some bad guy, right? He played a villain.
I don't know if he played an actual character from the comic books or just kind of a made up character for the movie.
He was the mayor or something like that.
No, he plays the boss, the guy who ends up pushing Michelle Pfeiffer out the window. Right, turns her into Christopher Walken, Max Schreck, a wealthy businessman and industrial known as the Santa Claus of Gotham. Yeah, I don't know if he's in the comic books. The name doesn't sound familiar to me.
Yeah.
So,
anywho, I remember what I was getting to. I remember seeing him as Batman, loved him. Didn't really see him or even remember that he was an actor or existed until I again saw him in this movie, in Birdman, and was just like blown away by his talent and by the fact that he was still acting. And you can tell he was full of crow's feet. I mean, he is really wrinkled over time. But as would I sitting in the sun in Southern California, I'm sure as he has done. But phenomenal talent.
Such a great actor.
And you can't really, besides the one scene where he reminded me of Jack Nicholson, very much so. Besides that scene, there's nobody else that I can say, oh, he kind of acts like this person. His acting style is kind of like this person, or anyone acting like Michael Keaton. He's kind of his own thing, does his own thing, which is great.
He's got a very distinct face. He's got very pointed eyebrows when he makes kind of like that angry talk face. He gets very into his monologues. Yeah, and you see that a lot in the Spider-Man movie too. The Homecoming where he plays Vulture. In a world of comic book characters and superheroes and Iron Mans and Doctor Stranges, this normal guy, this old guy, has this air of fear that he brings to the scene because you don't know what he's capable of. He's got this kind of I will hurt you bad and not feel remorse about it, and just the words he says.
Yeah.
So, like I had mentioned, the movie's budget between 16 and 18 million ends up making over $100 million, 42 domestic, 60 international. Doesn't have a hugely wide release. It opens to only 4 theaters, but goes on to the wide release extends to over 1,200 theaters. Any idea what spot it opens at?
Internationally or domestically?
domestically. It opens October 17th, 2014.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say it's in top 20,
19. So
19.
it's only in 4 theaters, but it opens to 19. When it goes on to open to 50 theaters on the 24th, it gets bumped up to 16. And then obviously October 31st, Halloween, it extends to even more theaters, 231, goes on to 460, 857, and it just slowly, as the momentum builds behind this movie and more people hear about it, more and more praise comes from it, it expands to more and more theaters. It goes as high as 8 on the box office charts, but no higher than that, but winds up staying in the box office for 63 weeks. Over a year, it stays in the box office, which is the top 200, which is amazing.
Now let me
Uh,
ask you this: what's if you are if you're the director,
mhm.
what is more prestigious to you? Is it that box office? Is it the money coming in, or is it the awards that this movie ends up winning? What is it? What does a director care more about?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it probably depends on the director, probably depends on the film. Um, I think the more awards you win, the more you can kind of see it as your film being taken in and honored for the work you put into it. And I think you kind of get that recognition. But obviously, the more money the film earns, the more you can get that blank check from the studio to do what you want next time, or to do another big budget film, or to get another go at it.
Yeah,
So I think most directors would probably like the recognition. Like any artist, they want fans to say, you did a good job. This is a good piece of art. But ultimately, I think if you like making art, the ability to keep doing it is also important. So I don't know. I think I could see both sides of that coin.
and how about for the cast? My opinion would be the award. So this movie actually won best cast and crew, right? They won a Golden Globe for best cast.
I don't know. That's a good question. I know they won Best Picture.
They were nominated for just a ridiculous amount of awards. The movie and different awards for the movie. It also won. So something I wanted to mention. Almost all movies have some type of soundtrack, right? There's at least a few different songs or a few different scores that happen in the background. There's
Right.
one guy. There's one guy on a single drum set, a snare drum set that kind of keeps pace throughout the movie, especially in big drama points. That's all it is. It's a snare and a cymbal, a snare and a cymbal, all movie, and I think it won an award for that.
So it was there's actually rules for the Academy as far as being nominated for certain things. So I'm not sure if it won awards for the soundtrack, but I know that as far as an Academy Award, it could not be nominated because it didn't have the certain number of instruments in the soundtrack as a whole, and a lot of the songs in the soundtrack were actually just classical songs that they took. There's very little original songs.
Gotcha. I remember see IMDb, see all the awards, and it was nominated. It may not have been a Golden Globe or
Yeah, so
whatever.
it got Academy Award for Best Picture, Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, Academy Award for Best Cinematography, Academy Award for Best Director, Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor from Michael Keaton, Golden Globe Award for Best Actor from Michael Keaton. I mean, it does. You're right. The amount of awards on here are just insane. It's got a ton of awards. A lot of them are Best Actor, Best Picture, stuff like that. I don't see any. Oh, Satellite Award for Best Original Score. Yeah, it's crazy. Golden Eagle Award for Best Foreign Language Film. That must be from a different country, I'm assuming.
In the time where he's walking around drunk or he's jet set on something during the movie, there's a scene where he's jet set on something and he's walking through the hallways, and I think it's when he's actually going out for that final scene. And so throughout the movie, you're hearing this drum roll and a cymbal, and he walks past the room, and there's that drummer drumming away.
Yeah, it's a good scene, and again, I think it plays into him going crazy. So Because you have been on the podcast before, although it is going to be a hidden secret episode that may get released one day.
Have I been on this podcast? I wouldn't know.
I like to ask all my guests the same 5 questions with regards to every film we watch. So let's have at it. Question number 1: what aspects of the storytelling are done right? Which ones are done wrong? And who do you give credit to?
So the storytelling, just like you said, there is huge character development and character build up. You get these big backstories or these story arcs. I think that's super important to it. It tells the story. It helps tell the story. So I think that was huge. What did they do wrong in the movie? It's tough to find anything they did wrong in this movie. Let me add to what they did best in the long 16 shot long frames. Very, very well done. No other movie. I haven't seen a movie to do it similarly, if that's a word, ever.
There's a few other movies that have pulled off similar things, but none of them have been on this blockbuster caliber. A lot of them have been foreign films or low budget films.
So the whole flying around, that really just, it was a turn off for me. They could have gotten the same point across with very little of that, or very little, maybe he flies, but it's for a minute. There was a scene where he flew around for 4 or 5 minutes, probably closer to 3 minutes, but I could have done without that. I think I don't know what they were going for there, what the director was going for there. There was something I read that in that last scene that we talked about could have done without. That came in a dream. That came in the director's dream. He dreamt like, this is how I want to end the movie, and he did it. Sometimes you just don't want to don't trust your gut. Don't trust your dream.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I agree. I don't think that final scene takes anything away from the movie. I'm a big believer that the ending can make or break a movie. And I think in this case, it didn't really do either. I'm kind of indifferent about it. I like the more open-ended type endings. And I think, I like the idea he pulls out the gun, he shoots himself, and maybe you had this moment, or maybe it cuts to black right before you hear the bang. Or, it cuts to black and then you hear the bang. And it's like, what did he do? Did he shoot himself? Did he shoot Edward Norton? Like, who knows? I think that would have been a better ending. But what is the biggest unanswered question for you about the movie? And do you think it was done intentionally?
I guess we go back to the final scene. The final, Emma Stone looks up, smiles, and then cut to credit. That would be the biggest unanswered thing. Did she see him flying? What the heck was that about? That for me was the biggest unanswered question. If you're going to put it in, give me resolution. That's all I'm saying.
See, a lot of movies do that, and there was definitely a time, especially around when Inception came out, where I would agree with you. Give me the resolution. Tell me what happens. Finalize the character. But the more and more movies do that, and the more you get these interviews with directors 10 years later, and they're like, it's ambiguous. It's supposed to be ambiguous. I kind of do like that more. I like the idea that it's up. It's not so much that it's undecided. It's more that it's up to the viewer. You get to decide. Because it isn't spelled out, you can make it whatever you want. And I do kind of like that more. In my mind, I don't think there was anything supernatural about the movie. I don't think there was any points in the movie where he was controlling things with his mind or was actually flying. So I think that the chance that, okay, she's looking up in the sky, is she really seeing him fly? No, he can't fly. He's not a superhero. It's not a superhero movie. If he jumped out of the window, he obviously, jumped and died, or at least hit the ground and is, bleeding out. The real question for me is, why is she looking up and smiling? Period. Her father just jumped out of the window and is presumably injured on the ground. Why does she look up?
She looks down. She sticks out further,
Yep.
looks down, doesn't see anything, looks up, and kind of gives like a oh my gosh look, and then smiles about it. I don't know. I could have done without it. That is the biggest unanswered question for me. If that was the original question.
Yeah. So personal connection is important. Was there anything that happened in the movie that reminded you of a real life story that happened to you?
Hmm. I can't say nothing that struck a chord, nothing that went, oh my gosh, that I can relate to that. I think I can relate to. So this movie was so real, and I think that's why I like it so much. It was so real. It was so filled with real emotion, and I think that's what they wanted to do because that's what theater is. You go watch a play, and you're gonna feel that you're in it. Similarly to any other movie, but this was so in it. It was so real. It was raw. I can relate to that, and I think anyway, whomever watches this movie will find things that go, wow, I can relate to that. But as far as specific lines and that, not really. Not really.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any one specific thing that I can relate to or that I've been through, but I think the general concept of wanting to be remembered, wanting a legacy, and the idea that he's trying to do something that is so important to him. I mean, it is literally life and death to him, and nobody else around him is really taking it as serious as he is. I can relate to that, or I can point to that and say that's kind of a real life story in general. But yeah, nothing specific. What is the most important sequence in the movie?
Mhm. You should like prep these. I should be prepped with these things.
No way,
Like,
man. I need thinking. I want you to articulate your thoughts. What are you going through?
um, most important sequence in the movie. I personally liked the um so they go to the bar one night. Edward Norton during one of the previews gets all drunk. Um, ruins the preview. He tells him he wants to see him outside in the front of the theater, at whatever time. Goes out, they walk down the street, they're kind of bickering, they end up in the bar, and at that point they're kind of chill. He kind of tells a story of why became an actor. That's when they introduce the critic at the other end of the bar. Edward Norton has a short conversation with her, and then a few days later, that's when Keaton goes and talks to the critic in the bar, and that is my favorite scene in the movie. So the introduction to her, and it's just funny that meet me out front because you got drunk on my on set and ruined the preview. Then they end up in a bar drinking together to resolve.
Yeah.
But, I think that sequence was kind of cool. The introduction to the critic and then how it ended up with the fallout with Keaton and her.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing actually. I was gonna say that critic scene. I think it not only sets up the ending. I think that when she says, "I'm gonna write a bad review about you," before I even see the play. I think that sets up something in his head subconsciously that, this is really my final shot, and if she's gonna burn me alive, then I'm gonna go out swinging. I don't think he does the gunshot at the end intentionally to try to like get a good review out of her. I think he sees it as, I'm gonna go out doing what I love and giving it my all, and I'm gonna put the final period on the sentence and then just let it be done. But I also think he's got this monologue there where he's telling her and us, the audience, this is everything. This is everything. He goes in, like you said before, he rips apart the critique that she's reading, but he does it in a way where he reads what she's written down and he's like, it's all labels. all you're doing is labeling the stuff. You're not absorbing it. You're not reading, you're not understanding what is being put in front of you. You're just trying to label it. And I mean, that's so well put. It's easy to look at something and try to label it for a column, and it's another thing to really breathe it in and understand where it's coming from and what its motivation is.
Yep. Yep. And I think her final review was more than a label. I think she did just that. She took everything in, and let it all out on the page in her review for it, because she was so indulged in it, and especially the ending where he shoots himself.
Right.
Now, had he not done that, would the review been different? Who knows? Probably.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, she, like you said, she does articulate in the review that he gave blood to the theater that's been missing blood for over 100 years. But was that it? I mean, was that final scene what hooked her, or was she actually enjoying the play up until then? I guess you'll never know.
Never know.
If you could recast 2 roles in the film, what roles would they be? Who would you recast in them, and why?
Ooh, that's tough, because I don't know if they carefully selected who they picked. Because gosh, I think anyone, I would definitely not recast Michael Keaton.
Definitely not.
You keep him there. You cement him in that role forever. Edward Norton, I think that role could have been played by others who, I don't know, somebody with some arrogance, because that's really what he put forth in this movie. But who is that arrogant? Who could have done the arrogance as well? Because up to this movie, I don't see Edward Norton as an arrogant person at all. In all his other movies.
It's funny because he's actually got a reputation in Hollywood for being abrasive and difficult to work with.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So again, why I feel that they really selected these people pretty closely. I'd redo Emma Stone, put in freaking Dakota Fanning. I don't care who you put there. Emma Stone, I like her. I didn't like her in this role. I just didn't.
We are on the same page with all of this. Emma Stone would be my number 1 for sure. I don't know who you'd replace her with, but I don't think she's very good in this movie. And honestly, I don't really think she's a very good actress, period. I do like her. She seems like a very likable person, but I can't point to a role where I think she does a phenomenal job. I think she's okay in most of the things that she's in.
I think she's an alien, man. Her eyes are like huge.
And if I had to pick a second one, it would probably be Edward Norton. I think he does a really good job, but I think that you could probably get half a dozen other actors to do just as good of a job. The first person that comes to mind, in my opinion, is Robert Downey Jr. Because I think he can play arrogant. I mean, he does it very well as Tony Stark, but he could play like an unlikable arrogant as well if he had to.
Yeah. No, that'd be a perfect recast there. I agree. I really respected Edward Norton though and what he did, but Robert Downey could have done it just as good. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm here for.
Or who's the other arrogant Avenger? There's another one. Anyway, moving
on. So one of my favorite things to play on this podcast, as you well know, is called Guess That Tomato, where I ask my guest to guess the Rotten Tomato score. As you know, Rotten Tomatoes has 2 scores. They have the critic score and they have the audience score. So I'm asking you to guess the audience score for Birdman.
Ooh.
Or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
I'm going to go with a 93.
Okay, so we're going to lock that answer in at 93. I am now going to give you a couple movies that are within 2 points of this movie's score. So plus or minus 2 points. Bad Boys for Life, Frozen 2, and Captain Marvel.
Oh.
I'm also going to up the stakes and give you the critics score as well. The critics rated this movie a 91. That is 349 different critics. Combined score 91.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna change my fan or viewer peon rating to to an to an 83.
83. So I'll say you're closer with the 83. It's got a 77 right now.
Bummer.
Isn't that crazy? 77. 93,000 people have voted. 77. To me, that score does not do this movie justice.
No way.
My personal rating, I would have to say 85 to 90, somewhere in that range.
I would 93 is what I went with because I thought I was the voice of the people, but 93 is how it rates. Yeah, 90 between 90 and 93. This movie was great. I loved every bit of it. It was so raw, so real. It gave you Hollywood, but it also gave you theater. No, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so did I. Good suggestion, man. Definitely liked it. And the final thing we do on this podcast, it's a firm belief of the owners of Don't Forget a Towel that everybody geeks out on something, whether it be comic books, movies, or woodworking or football or whatever. So I got to ask you, my guest, Will Kelly, what are you geeking out on?
I'm currently geeking out on shoot. I always go to Netflix. What am I watching on Netflix? I don't think I'm watching anything on Netflix currently. Nothing that pops out. Football season. Patrick Mahomes' new contract. That I'm kind of geeking out on that and what that does to the whole quarterback market and my main man, Dak Prescott. What's going to happen there? But
do you think we're going to get a football season?
I do. I don't think the Italians will let us not have a football season.
What? I don't get that. The Italians?
Yeah, the guys who run Vegas.
The mafia. You're referring to the mafia. Los Sinatra? Frank Sinatra?
Frank Sinatra. Yeah, so let me back up. I am geeking out on Whiskey Myers. Whiskey Myers.
That's right. Yeah. So this is a new band that you found that you absolutely fell in love with.
Yeah, shout out to Whiskey Myers. Awesome band from Houston, Texas. They'll actually be here in Rochester August 15th, something like that.
And do you have tickets already, or are you kind of waiting to see what happens?
I do not have tickets. I'm not going to get tickets. My son's birthday party is going to be that day. He's going to have more, right?
He's going to have more birthday parties.
Right.
Just bring them.
I know. That's what I've been geeking out on lately. I'm a music buff. Whiskey Myers is my new thing.
So will you? What I do a lot of times is I'll get hooked on a band or a song, and I will just, for some reason, I will play them on repeat until I know every lyric and just can't stand the song anymore. Are you similar to that, or?
That's exactly it, and I've been doing that for a long time. For a long time. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I learn every word, every song in record time.
Well, that's great, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you recommending the movie. Phenomenal choice. Look forward to having you on the podcast again. Any shout outs you want to give? Any last minute plugs?
If you haven't seen Birdman, go see Birdman or The Unfortunate Virtue, whatever it is. Go see Birdman. Awesome movie. Bump the Rotten Tomatoes score up. Help it climb the ladder.
Yeah, man. All right. Thanks, Will.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. I don't know what happened. You see my forehead?
I can see you.
In the shadows.
What?
The nightshade.
Very, very clear too. That was. This has been an hour-long process with different emails and phone numbers to get in contact with you.
Yeah. Apparently, I had to update my Android software, restart my phone to get it to work, but whatever.
Oh, well, we got it.
Let me hit the light on. Hold on.